Hello and welcome to season 5 of the Nature Journal Show. Are you ready for some crazy behind the scenes preparations? And yes, there is some very loud noises happening right now outside of my hotel room because I'm here in Panama in Bocas del Toro. And it's a beautiful, peaceful place. But right now, there's some crazy construction going on right outside of my room, and I'm packing up, getting ready to leave. And let me show you a little bit of the back of my head. Yes, but also look at this craziness that's happening outside. I don't know if you can see that at this point. It's starting to get dark. They're working late. But there's basically two massive backhoes and a whole sewage reinstallation program that is happening just a mere feet from the room that I've been staying in for the last few days, trying to get work done, trying to create content for all of you, trying to wrap up season 4 and start season 5. And right now it's time to do a bunch of packing. So you can see my micro hotel room here. This is all my stuff laid out. I've got scrapbooking stuff. I've got some little tidbits, little hints about what's in store in season 5. That's actually a huge hint. I've got my sketchbook right here with all the stuff that I've been working on lately. A lot of this stuff is for Patreon members only, but right now, today on YouTube, I'll do a little bit of a preview. I'll show you how I pack my stuff when I'm traveling, how I get my nature journal supplies organized, and bring you along behind the scenes. Just wrapping up from this climbing class, the canopy access class, doing a lot of nature journaling there in the canopy. This is the quote that's sort of summarizing where I'm at right now. Some exciting stuff happening for season 5, so stay tuned. And we're going to be going to some different continents this season and looking at some interesting animals. This is your little hint right here. So, very excited about that. Okay, so let's get started with the packing. I'm going to show you a little bit about my packing methodology. One way that you can approach this, you can see I have a lot of stuff here, and all of this has to be carried on my back. I'm going to be going on a boat, then multiple buses, crossing an international border, and going all the way to Costa Rica. Not that far, but I'm going to Alajuela, Costa Rica, and everything needs to get on my back. I've been in the tropical rainforest for a while, so some of this stuff is kind of smelly. I'll show you what I travel with, what I consider essential. Look at these black lights right here. These are black lights for moths and insects, and this is my whole black lighting setup that I use. An extension cord that is a very useful thing to travel with, actually. And so I'm going to try to see if I can do some of this packing and show you the behind the scenes as I put this stuff together into my backpack. So let's get started here. One approach to this is to start with your most essential things first. So, for example, starting with the essential stuff that is most important. And so I think that traveling teaches you things that are really important for life in general about prioritizing. So, for example, you could start with all of the stuff that you carry on your person and the stuff that is most essential. So, for example, I carry 2 bags. I carry my big backpack, and I carry a smaller backpack, and the smaller backpack is the one that always has the most essential, most precious, most irreplaceable supplies. So currently I use this waterproof backpack by Seal Line, and this backpack fits my nature journal kit and my nature journal, which I do consider part of my most essential and irreplaceable supplies. So this whole bag right here that you've seen before, this is my nature journal, my nature journal kit. This bag right here is part of my most essential and irreplaceable supplies. And so this is always with me and closest to me as possible. I'm going to change my audio here so you don't have to listen to the crazy stuff that's happening outside. Wow, look at that right now. That is crazy. Can you see that? What is actually happening? This is like on a daily basis right now out here outside of my window. This is a little bit later than they usually stop around 6. The whole room shakes. There's 2 backhoes minimum working at any given moment. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. Let me see if I can switch my audio here, just in case I don't. Let's see if I can get you on my headphones. Here we go. I don't think the audio quality is not always the best with these, but at least you probably won't hear as much of the background noise. All right, so as I was saying, one approach to this is what I would call sort of a 2-bag approach, this is your carry-on bag, right? This is where you have all of your most essential stuff, most valuable stuff, your passport, your money, your nature journal, your phone, things like that. And this bag is always on you like this, right? And then you have a bigger bag, and this bag could have your clothes, your camping supplies, maybe your toiletries. Your toiletries might be in your essential. It sort of depends. In your essential, you might also want to have, just one extra pair of underwear, maybe one extra pair of clothing. And this bag is like, if you had to lose one bag, you would lose this one and you would still be okay with just this one. So hopefully that makes sense, that idea that you have this sort of prioritization between your 2 bags. And so this sort of philosophy helps a lot for nature journaling in general, or time outdoors. Now what I do is I have this waterproof bag, and this waterproof bag allows for me to put all of my nature journaling stuff in here. So my whole nature journaling bag will actually fit in this waterproof bag. And just a little hint about season 5 of the Nature Journal Show. One of the first episodes for the season is going to be about nature journaling in very wet and very rainy conditions. And having a bag like this, where your entire nature journal kit can just fit inside of here. It just goes completely inside of there and is now waterproof. And it also is something that I can now carry on my back. And once I can carry it on my back, it's a lot more comfortable for longer distances. So this is another way to think about that sort of 2-bag option, is that one of your bags can fit completely inside of your other bag. So these are just a couple of things around packing and organization that I've been developing over the years, and I think that they're very useful. So I'm trying to share that useful information with you. So as I said, I actually have to do a bunch of packing right now, and there's sort of 2 approaches to do this. One way would be to start with the most essential items first. The other way would be to start with the least essential items first. So if I'm starting with most essential, I would start with that bag that's always going to be on me. I would get my passport, I would get my nature journal stuff all packed first. But in this case, I'm actually going to do the opposite. I'm going to start with the least essential stuff. So I'm going to start with this bigger bag, and I'm going to start with some of my extra clothing and things like that. that I have for cool weather, for example. So I'll show you how that works. Let me get this tripod over in the corner a little bit more there. It's kind of crazy in here because it's a very small room that I've been staying in. But what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna start with this larger bag, and I'm just gonna get everything in place that is the least essential. This is feeling slightly overwhelming because I have stuff spread out in this way. So this is my bigger backpack. I like this bag because of its size. And one of the things that I would put in here would actually be my tripod, but since I'm using that right now, I can't put that in here. So this bag is mostly empty, and I will start by putting some of the bigger, bulkier things in first. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about season 5 of the Nature Journal show. Post those in the comments. Sandra's here. Awesome. Okay, so here is my chair. Yes, I do travel with this chair. It's very comfy. Even when I'm in a hotel, it's often what I use. If I'm out in nature, it's really great because of these special feet that don't sink into the mud, don't sink into the sand. It's great for nature journaling. When you're sitting in one place for longer, I use it all the time. People often borrow it from me. This is the second one that I've used. I think the quality might have gone down a little bit. One of the feet broke, but I do use it very roughly. I was sitting on some crazy rocks on the other side of Panama, but I'm going to start by taking this down. I wish I could go on wide angle lens here. This room is so small, it's hard for you to see. So I'm going to take this apart here. Oh, it sounds like they're actually stopping with the backhoes, but the generator's still going because they're using these pumps to keep the water out while they dig this ditch, huge ditch for the new sewage line. So I'll take this out because this is a very bulky item. Take this apart and pack this first and show you how that goes in the bottom of my backpack. I have an extra. I ended up with more nature journals and more art supplies than I ended up needing for this trip. So that might sound familiar to some of you. I think there's different personality types, and certain personality types tend to pack more stuff than they need on a trip, and other personality types pack less stuff than they need on a trip. And I think just trying to be a little self-aware about that. I think I'm probably one of the ones that I end up packing more stuff than I need a lot of the time. And I had three of my normal Stillman and Byrne 9x12 sketchbooks, and that was definitely more than I needed. I ended up only using one. I mean, I'm not done with my trip yet, but I haven't finished that sketchbook yet. So this is going to go into this bottom part, and just getting these bigger, bulkier things in first. Get that in the bottom. Here I have my cooler weather clothes. So when I was in the cloud forest and I'm about to be at high altitudes in Costa Rica again, I need some cooler weather clothing. So for example, I used to travel to supposedly warm tropical places without an extra layer. And after keeping track over many years, I decided that I would never travel to a warm tropical place without at least one layer like this. So this is that Patagonia. This is probably the piece of Patagonia clothing that most people have. It's the Nano Puff. And so this is just a jacket. It's all synthetic, but it's very lightweight, but it does provide some insulation and it packs down very small. So this nano puff, I will never travel to, like, if I were to go to Indonesia tomorrow, I would pack this, even if I was expecting it to be a very warm trip. So look at how small it compacts to, and I've just had too many experiences of traveling to warm equatorial places and being cold and not having brought something like this. So I always bring something like that. And what I recommend now is using one of these waterproof stuff sacks, and you can just put that, that nano puff into there and keep it, for most of your trip, you're not going to use it. It's the kind of thing you're probably only going to use 10% or less, but I just have decided that I don't want to be caught being cold in the tropics anymore. That has just happened to me too many times, being caught off guard, whether it's in Ecuador or Tanzania. I don't do that anymore. So now I just bring that with me, and in this stuff sack, it makes it a nice thing for stuffing into here and bulking up your backpack. So I'm going to put that in the top compartment up there. And then the other thing, this is something that one of my Patreon members gave me. I have this hammock. This is a really cool hammock. I used it a lot while I was in Bocas del Toro, Panama. And I'm going to pack this up. I didn't use the rain fly for it, but I used it every day for taking naps for the last month. So I think that made it worth it for the amount of weight that it is. I probably could have gotten away with not bringing this, like if I was trying to be more minimalist. I had it airing out the last few days just to make sure mold wasn't growing on it. Thanks to Eli for giving this to me, one of my Patreon members. Really grateful for that gift. Just pack that hammock up there, and I'll put that in the bottom with the chair. The other thing I'll put in the bottom with the chair is this. This is some kind of cheap shower curtain that I use for my mothing setup for nighttime flying invertebrates. And I have these two black lights here that I use as well. So I set these up at night. And, moths and night flying insects, it's one of those things, if you're an amateur naturalist, like I am, or just sort of a generalist naturalist like I am, this is one of those things that, you never know, you could find a new species of moth or a new species of some other night flying invertebrate. So I set these up when I'm traveling. They attract those invertebrates that are flying and navigating at night. And so you put it in front of like a white sheet, like the one that I just showed you, and those bugs come to it, and you take pictures of them, post it on iNaturalist, and you never know, you could find an undescribed species. So these are really light, and I got the whole setup idea from my iNaturalist guru, Damon Tiga. He's an awesome person in the Bay Area, and he has this whole setup. These can also be plugged into one of those portable batteries, so those really small portable batteries. And those plus this extension cord are really useful, and I've gotten some really cool insect and other invertebrate observations from those. So first I'll pack away this extension cord. These are also very useful when you're traveling. There's probably lighter weight ones than this, but if you've ever been in a hotel where there's nowhere nearby to plug in and charge your phone, then this is the kind of thing that can be really helpful. So let's get that in here at the bottom. I'll put the lights into a slightly different location. Take a sip of my Cuba Libre. Okay, now here I've got more extra clothing. This is the kind of stuff that I don't think I'm going to use
for a while. So what I'll do is I'll get these all the clothing that I'm not going to use for a while, I'll put into this more waterproof thing. And these are the kind of things that they're more sort of bulky and take up space. So I want to get those into my backpack early on. Another way that you can approach this is thinking about what things you might want to access quickly. So depending on the style of backpack you have, this bottom part might have a separate entry the way that mine does. So this zipper right here makes some of this easier to access. So now that I put all this random bulky stuff in, what I'll do is I'll put my rain jacket in. This is just a light shell. A lot of times in the humid tropics, rain jackets aren't that useful because you're going to be sweating underneath this. So you might be dry from the rain, but you'll be wet from the sweat. So one thing to think about is if you're traveling in really hot, humid, rainy environments, you might not need something like this at all. It might be sort of cumbersome, in fact. But if you're in slightly cooler places that have lots of rain in the tropics, this could be useful. So, or in situations where you might be getting cold because of wind or something. So I'll put this in an accessible place because it might be something that I need to access last minute. On that same note, I have a thing for covering my entire backpack and keeping my entire backpack dry, and I'll put that away right now as well. I have it hanging up here, but I think they call them like duck, and this is a thing that just goes over your entire backpack. They make them in different sizes. This is something similar to my rain jacket that I want to be able to put in a accessible location in case I need it. So I'll put it in one of the side pockets of my big backpack. You can also use garbage bags. These ones right here are probably overpriced. This is something I got at REI. You could probably make a similar thing out of a garbage bag for 50 times cheaper. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it into a lot of these backpacks have on the waist straps, they have pockets here. So I'm going to put it into one of those. That would be easily accessible. I might use it on the boat ride tomorrow. When you're going on a boat, you never know what's going to happen. One strategy as well is, like I said here, I have these waterproof bags. I could put all of my clothes and my extra stuff that I don't want to get wet just as an emergency. I could have all of that inside of a dry bag like this inside of my backpack. And even though this backpack's not waterproof, I could have that in there. And this is something I've been developing over the years with more experience and more traveling in these type of areas is systems for this. So for example, all of my extra sketchbooks are inside of this plastic here. And I'll pack this up right now because this is a flat thing, and having flat things positioned well in your backpack is useful. So this is a completely empty Stillman and Burns sketchbook. This is the one that I didn't end up needing. I had 2 extra ones of these that I didn't use, but because this is a critical item that I wouldn't want to get wet, I'm going to put it in this giant Ziploc bag, and I'm going to put I have a bunch of crazy sort of scrapbooking type stuff. This is the problem with scrapbooking and junk journaling is you start collecting all kinds of random ephemera. Look at all this ephemera. Actually, some of this is stuff that Sandra gave me. So, you end up with like all of this ephemera, and you need to put that somewhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it all inside of this bag where it's protected. Why did I pour it on the ground? Look, I have postcards. I'm sending postcards to some of my Patreon members. So thanks for being a Patreon member. That's going to be for people who've been Patreon members for a long time. And where's that other? You never know when you need pieces of National Geographic magazines. So these are all, okay, that's something different. These are all pieces of paper, things that shouldn't get wet, extra sketchbooks. And this piece of paper is going to go in there as well. Season 5 of the Nature Journal show. And these episodes this season, at least at the beginning, are going to come out 1 week early for Patreon members. So this is a big, huge Ziploc bag. I'm going to seal that. That way, you know, worst case scenario, the boat flips over, or we get hit by a huge wave, or it's pouring rain, which is very possible that it could be pouring rain while I'm on the boat tomorrow. And at least my backpack could get wet, but at least the very essential things will stay dry. So whenever you have something that's very flat like this is your extra sketchbooks is a perfect thing to pack near the back of your backpack before you start putting in soft and flexible things. So that's going to go here in the very back part, and that adds sort of structure to it and keeps that nice and flat. Let's get these extra clothes all put away. So I'm going to go ahead and put them. I had too many of these this year, and I don't think they're that great of a product. This is, I'm trying to remember what brand this is, but these netting bags, these netting stuff sacks are useful, but these ones had too many weird features that were like unnecessary. And they ended up, it's Sea to Summit. So this is like a good brand, and it's the same brand as the waterproof bags that I use. Can you see that? Sea to Summit. But I got this organizational pack, and it came with like 3 of these. It's turned out it's probably more than what I really needed, but if you have like one of these, it can be useful for laundry, things like that, but it ended up being more than what I needed. So I'm actually going to put this one. I think I have all the clothes that I need for tomorrow. Let me take out one pair of underwear just in case. Oh, I know. I need the legs for these pants just in case also. And the clean pair of shorts. That's the main thing I need. One pair of underwear, and I want these legs. These are the pants that you can like zip off the legs on. They identify you immediately as a tourist, but they're actually pretty useful. I can't find both of them right now, which is annoying. Oh, there we go. Okay, got both of those. So I'll set those with my more essential stuff, the stuff that's going to be carried on my person, and keep going with this less essential stuff. So these are the pants that I'm going to wear, and this is an extra cord that I don't need. This is an extra shirt. Okay, so all of that is going to go in here. Towel I'm going to need because I'm going to go to the beach halfway through the drive. Okay, so this is going to be the big bulky thing in my backpack. Big, soft, bulky thing. And I am going to put it in the waterproof bag just to also protect these clothes from the humidity. None of this needs to be easily accessible, and it won't be easily accessible. that's just gonna sort of be in the central part of my bag. Now I'm gonna put in things that are more fragile and use the clothing to sort of protect them. So these UV lights, the black lights, I'll put in there on the sides or sort of protected by all this clothing. I still need to leave room for my tripod. And what's this? Extra technology stuff, chargers, things like that. Random stuff. One more sketchbook. This is my waterproof sketchbook that I use for my climbing logs. So I have all the tree climbing that I've been doing for the last month, as well as learning the tree climbing techniques. This is the Write in the Rain book that I used for that. So this could go in there sort of next to all that flat stuff in the back. More waterproof. This is all waterproof sketching stuff. So this is what I used yesterday in a video that's going to be coming out soon. I used it in the pouring rain. I was getting completely rained upon. This video will come out, I think it'll come out the week after next for Patreon members. And I think I got it mostly dry, so I feel okay packing it away. And what I do these days is my waterproof nature journaling kit, I transport it in a big Ziploc bag with my main drawing tools. So I used to tell everybody, the Prismacolor Ebony was my favorite pencil for using with the Write in the Rain paper. I've tried pins, I've tried space pins, I've tried the, astronaut pins or whatever, and I found that this pencil works the best for nature journaling in the rain. You can use Sharpies. So here's a page that I did with Sharpies and paint pen. So I will carry Sharpies and paint pen in here, but they only work on this paper when the paper is dry. They don't work while it's actually raining. So they will work on the paper, but not in the actual rain. And what I found out recently through testing, and I want to share this with you now and update my earlier recommendations, is that I got a cheap 5B pencil at a stationery store in Costa Rica, and this was, probably like 25 cents, which is, I can't remember how much these Prismacolor Ebonies cost, but they're kind of expensive. And this works basically the same. So this is a cheap 5B pencil from China. The Prismacolor Ebony is probably made in China as well. But anyways, this is a way cheaper pencil and it worked really well. So anything like that will work good. And this Write in the Rain sketchbook has no lines on the pages. So I personally like that. You can also get ones that have lines. They're not completely waterproof. They're water resistant, but the binding starts to have issues. That's something I'll talk about more in that upcoming video. So I'm just gonna put all of this together and keep it as a kit. I like to keep this sort of accessible because if I'm on the boat and something crazy happens and I need to journal, this is what I would be able to access first. So I'll put it in the pile with the stuff that I might need to access. Okay, at this point, I might be almost ready to start doing some of the more essential stuff. So like I said, this time I'm starting from less essential and moving towards more essential. I did buy paper towels so that I would stop stealing paper towels for watercolor from restaurants. Probably not essential, but this is the kind of thing you can think of it as padding. Use it as padding somewhere. So maybe to protect those UV lamps, for example, on the outside of those, squish it in there. Sometimes when you're traveling, depending on where you are, if you're from the US, you might think like, oh, paper towels, I can get those everywhere. Well, not everywhere has those kind of paper towels that you're used to in the US. So just be prepared for that. These scissors will go with my toiletry stuff. I do have this small bag for toiletry stuff here that I will show you. I like these electrolytes. I'll keep some of those accessible. Don't need my toothbrush for the next 4 days, so I'll just put that away right now. These things always seem like they're going to be really useful, but especially in the tropics, it seems to me like if you leave your toothbrush in there, it just gets really gross. So I'm not completely convinced on these travel toothbrush things. I think it might actually just be better to have a Ziploc bag that you put it in if you need to protect it, or just leave it open, might be less gross. You know, you might think, oh, but my toothbrush is just like floating around inside of my bag. That's kind of nasty. It could touch my other toiletry stuff. Well, having it completely enclosed in something like this, even though they have these, you know, minute ventilation holes, it probably, you know, the lack of airflow in here will probably make it grosser faster, but I'm experimenting with whether that works or not. So I'll get all of my toiletry stuff is in this. This is another Sea to Summit bag. Close that up, and I'll put that in the pile of stuff that I want to have access to. Wait. So I think that traveling a lot and living out of a backpack, it teaches you some useful organizational lessons, and it teaches you lessons about what's essential and what's not essential. So practicing this stuff, this ends up applying to your nature journaling as well. So practicing this stuff, I think it can be helpful in a lot of ways and apply to other aspects of life. So here's my extra filming stuff is all going to go into here. This is the stuff that I use for charging my GoPro. There were definitely certain things I didn't use at all. And at the end of each trip, I try to make a list of most valuable players and least valuable players. So I try to, at the end of each trip, take notes about what was useful, what things I used every day, what things I didn't even use once. I'll start making this pile of things that are going to go in my pockets there. Nature journal kit here. And if after each trip, you know, you sort of do that, you could do that with your nature journal kit at the end of each year as well, as like, what were the things in your nature journal kit that you didn't take out one single time during the entire year? And then what were the ones that you took out and used every single session? And by doing that, you will learn a lot. I'll keep out at least one headlamp thing. Here's this extra huge plastic bag. So I have a couple of these giant plastic bags. I probably overdid it on packing these extra giant plastic bags this year, but I'll put them up here in the top of my backpack and they'll provide sort of padding. Here's another extra plastic bag. Here's a bunch of rope that I use. This is paracord. I use it for creating like a clothesline. I like when I'm in the tropics to have all of my stuff hanging. I don't like piles of stuff. Piles of stuff or clothing on the floor, clothing in piles attract scorpions and other things that you don't want. I'm getting close to finishing here. Basically, what's left is my, here's more filming stuff. I'll put this in here. Basically, what's left is my essential things that I'm going to be carrying mostly on my person, and a couple more toiletry stuff that I have in the bathroom. So I'm going to zip this part of the backpack up. Sounds like the construction outside has finally ended for the day, which is nice. Pretty soon there will be noise from the people in the room next to me For some reason, it seemed to always come and start making noise at like 2 a.m. in the morning, which is kind of weird. Okay. All of that is, oops, this one needs to go in there. Okay, so I'll put this in here too. So, I mean, if you think about it, this practicing putting all of your stuff in a backpack and carry it on your back, you might think, oh, well, I don't do that kind of traveling anymore, right? I never did that kind of traveling. If you think about it, this is an important practice, and it can make you actually just reflect in a way and practice something that's really useful. Like, look at Los Angeles right now. How many of those people that had to leave their homes or evacuate their homes with only like 30-minute notice or whatever, how many of them knew like what were the essential things and what were non-essential? So practicing traveling and knowing that you can get all of your essential stuff into a backpack, and the difference between what's essential and what's not, and you have a backpack, those kind of things, they're actually really useful, and it gives you a sense of freedom, I feel like, and independence and self-reliance that I think is actually one of the main benefits of traveling. So I've got this backpack is pretty much ready to go, and let's see, everything else is stuff that I'm going to have close to me or accessible. I'll put my computer and nature journaling stuff all into this bag here. But let me show you a couple pages for my nature journal before we go on to the next thing. So I have to leave some time for myself to make top ramen for dinner tonight. Oh, it's Jean. Hi, Jean. Okay, so let me show you some pages from here. It's my last night in Bocas del Toro, Panama, so I might try to go to, someone told me there is a spot with some salsa and bachata dancing. So I might have to check that out tonight. And then tomorrow I'm going to be on a long bus ride most of the day. Okay, don't get dizzy while I do this. How does that go? Oops, oops, oops. Uh-oh, that's not gonna work. I hate when that happens. Okay. Sorry. This tripod, it only turns one way, and that's really annoying. The whole phone orientation thing doesn't always work out great. Whoa, whoa, whoa. But I've got this cool tripod that should allow me, cool but cheap tripod that should allow me to get you a nice perspective over my sketchbook. And I'm not going to do a full journal share because that's one of the things that I do for Patreon members. And let's see if I can remember to plug my Patreon. So this is the main way that the Nature Journal show continues to be supported. And yes, there are, you do get side benefits, but part of it is just all of these videos, they take a lot of time. And, sometimes I pay people to help me with the video, or I pay like someone that has a drone, or I have to pay for transportation to get to the location. It could take me um, a whole day of editing, not to mention going out in the field, not to mention all of the background experience to actually make the videos and teach the lessons. So it's actually really expensive to make the edited videos for the Nature Journal show, and Patreon members are the main way that I support that. YouTube is not a profitable thing if you don't have millions and millions of followers. So anyways, just plugging the Patreon there for as little as $5 a month, you can support the show. If you believe in the vision and want to support the mission, check it out at patreon.com/Marley Piper. Here's a page that I did up in, this is going to be the first episode, first edited episode that's going to come out for season 5. So this is just a live right now, first episode of season 5. Welcome to season 5. But this was done about 60 feet up in a tree. I'm currently editing this video right now. It's going to come out, I think it's going to come out next week for Patreon members, and the week after that on YouTube. Nature journaling up in the canopy. Here are some sketches that I did in town now that I'm in the town here in Bocas del Toro. So a little bit of urban sketching. I wanted to capture, there's so much construction going on, so try to capture some of that. I technically can't show you this because it's a science illustration I'm working on for pay. Oops, so let me start going backwards this way. Here is that bug that I smashed at 2:22 a.m. I don't think it was my blood, but blood did come out of it. Actually, let me just color that real quick right now. I never got around to coloring it. I did a little bit of like a nature comic, but never colored it. So it's a type of piercing sucking insect. There's piercing sucking insects that pierce and suck plants, and there's piercing sucking insects that pierce and suck animals. So I wanted to add some blood color to it. So I'll just use this pyrrole red and um, tone it down with a little bit of the mess that's already in the mixing area. And then I will just go in here, and I mainly want to get this part here where the blood is splatting out of it. I think the bug itself is more of like an orange color. And I made a podcast about this for Patreon members. Another little hint. Here's a hint about season 5. Ignore the Costa Rica part, but the rest is an important and big hint. I should probably pull off that price tag, but this is a big hint about something that I'm going to be doing this season. So stay tuned for that. This sticker is not, I guess it's not coming off. But anyways, you can probably get the hint from that. Another hint is that it looks like I'm going down under. So I'm trying to nature journal. I've wanted to nature journal in all the most biodiverse countries of the world, and also nature journal on as many continents as I can. And I'm about to get to one that I've never been to before, and so I'm really excited. They have lots of reptiles. If you know anybody in Eastern Australia that nature journals or climbs trees or dances salsa, let me know because I need some connections down there. I have a pretty minimal budget. There was just really cheap tickets. So I bought the tickets and decided I would figure everything else out afterwards. So if you know anybody in like Brisbane or anywhere in the Gold Coast, Melbourne, Sydney, Cairns, anywhere on that side of the country, let me know. I'm still looking for more connections. I do have some good connections, lots of nature journalers in Brisbane, but still looking for some more connections. Like if I could do some tree climbing while I'm there, that would be awesome. So I'm just gonna color in these letters. You can see I'm not being super precise about that. And this paper has so much dirt on it that there's a lot of resist happening with the watercolor, so it's hard to be precise anyways, and that happens in the field. And that's why I'm always recommending developing a fault-tolerant nature journaling style. If you have a fault-tolerant nature journaling style, then little things can go wrong. You can color outside of the lines. You can have a shaky hand, and the shaky hand and the coloring outside the lines or the raindrops that fall on the page and smear a little bit on the page, those aren't going to be fatal flaws. They're not going to totally ruin your page because you have a fault tolerant style. And in contrast, if you have a style that's not fault tolerant, it's a style that's dependent on everything being like very perfect, being very precise. It's very fragile. Maybe they're very pale lines. Everything is very dependent on everything being very perfect. It doesn't read that easily. It's not that bold. That would be the opposite, and that type of style would easily get messed up by the things that can happen in the field that are outside of your control. So I recommend trying to develop a fault-tolerant nature journaling style. This is completely opposite to the way that I would have drawn as a little kid. But look at how, the color down here is coming out of the letters. It's smeared. Look at that, I just smeared it more, but it still reads. It still tells the story. You can see it from far away, and even though the lettering's not perfect and the colors, look, I just smeared the colors right there, it still works. So that's the fault tolerant nature journaling style. And while I'm here and having fun, I'm gonna paste in this little bit of ephemera because I have this little thing that says outlandish on it that I cut out of the magazine. Don't tell the people at the hotel that I cut that out of their magazine. And just put that on there. And I think that could go nicely on this page somewhere next to this weird bug. How about that? So just using a little bit of scrapbooking mixed media technique in there, combined with the rest, a little post hoc, adding color to some pages that I already did. So I got to show you some behind the scenes pages. I got to show you a little bit of packing. It's season 5 of the Nature Journal show. I'm very excited for this season. Check out the Patreon if you want to get the videos early, if you want access to the monthly study sessions, the traveling journal, Patreon member only parties, over 150 archived Patreon member only posts and videos and podcasts and all kinds of stuff like that, and more, and the pride of knowing that you're supporting the show, the vision and the mission of the Nature Journal show. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. This was sort of a impromptu last night in Panama packing mayhem. You saw me packing. You saw how I went through my supplies here, got my backpack ready, got my stuff ready. I'm ready to travel to Costa Rica tomorrow, and more exciting announcements coming soon. We're just getting started with season 5 of the Nature Journal show. Bye.